Hello and welcome. We are here today to talk about scaling rapidly, and I am Aive Uus. I am the CEO of Concise, and my passion is to create growth. And when we talk about growth, for me it has different levels. First one is that I like to grow personally. I like to learn new things. I like to try out new things. But also growth for me means teamwork growth. People together grow and do amazing things. And growth also is interesting on a company level and business level, how to grow businesses. A few words about Concise as well. We are 12 years old, and we have today over 80 passionate developers in Concise. We do software development, we do product development for startups, for growth companies, and sometimes also for corporations who are implementing Agile. Even though we don't have our own product, the end users of the products that we build are globally all around the world. So we deal with millions of users using our products daily. And a bit more detailed what we talk about today. Today we talk about teamwork and innovation. We talk about growth hacking. We talk about rapid development. And in the end, we will talk more detailed about Super Agile Score tool. We will go through how to use it. So this is the agenda, and I hope you all will find something inspirational and some tips that you can actually start to use already tomorrow, or why not today. Many people have heard the saying that there are only two things certain in life, death and taxes. And now I would like to say that there are two other things certain in life, constant change and digital transformation. Constant change we have seen in the world this year. 2020 has been very changing year for the world, so definitely this is here. Digital transformation, well, for a start, we are here today doing YouTube Live instead of meeting in a startup hub like we used to, maybe like we did last year. And another interesting statistics is that 80% of smartphone holders check their phone within 15 minutes after waking up every morning. So we are definitely doing digital transformation in the world currently. What does it mean when we come closer to the technology world? We are a technology company. And we see that technology is changing so much. There are new frameworks, new technologies, new ideas, new ways to do things coming in daily. So the most important thing is actually to be able to learn instead of using the knowledge you have used already in previous year or previous years. I will share a bit about our own experiences. One thing for scaling is definitely hiring. We all need new people to join us, and for us it has been a good lesson that when you hire people, you actually look into the ability to learn, the passion for what the person does, instead of looking exact knowledge in exact technologies, because that doesn't matter, it changes anyway. So first thing that I would like for you to take with you is the thought that choose the right team. Choose the people who love changes and who love learning, because this is important in scaling. And now let's go further. Let's talk a bit about goals and innovation. Clear goals are pretty important if you want to achieve something. Why? Because there will always be times when it's difficult, There will always be times when you will lose motivation a little bit, but if you have a clear goal, which you can see, then it's much easier to continue going towards it. I was recently told a story that if you sit into a cab and you tell a cab driver that yes, please take me to Tallinn, then you will end up somewhere in Tallinn, but you don't know where. But if you tell the specific address, then you will get to that address. So the better you know what is your goal, the more likely you will get there. Of course, that doesn't mean that the goal couldn't change, because just the way we talked, the world is changing, and so it's okay that the goals change as well. But then you just change this clear goal. So to gather it up, I like the saying that set the goal so big that you can't achieve it until you grow into the person who can. Another aspect is believing. When you grow from 10 users to 10,000 users, then again there will be obstacles. In our culture, we like to say that there are no problems, there are only challenges. But with those challenges, it is important that you believe that you will find the solution, because it doesn't matter if no one else in the world has done it before, but you can still do it. It is what is the most interesting, to find solutions to things that have not been done before. Of course, when you do such things, then failure is quite natural part of it. To reach success, you have to go through different failures. As a CEO, I have to say that I have written down a lot of my failures, and maybe soon I will be able to publish a book of them. But failure really is a way of learning, because this is the way you grow, and this is the way you find out what works and what doesn't. Again, I would like to share one story. It is quite famous, but I myself like to remind myself that repeatedly. Let's say there are two groups who have given the same amount of time. Now, one group is given the goal to create as many coffee cups as possible in that amount of time. The second group is given the goal to create one coffee cup, but the perfect one. Now, different experiments have shown that the group who actually gets the most perfect cup is the one who does as many cups as possible, because they learn while doing it. And through learning from their mistakes, in the end they will get to a perfect cup. But the ones who try to build this perfect cup from the beginning, for them it is much more difficult to reach there. So yes, failure is definitely okay if you learn from it, and that gets you to actual success. And innovation needs the culture that allows you to fail sometimes. As Elon Musk has said, that if you are not failing, you are not innovating enough. To do something differently, to do something better, you need to try out, and of course sometimes not working out is part of it. One way to look at it is that the earlier you fail, then the quicker you learn, and that actually helps you to save a lot of money. Meaning that through learning very early, you save time. Instead of trying to do very carefully a perfect thing, and it will in the end take more time, more money, and maybe you will never get there. So everyone can change the world, and everyone can be innovative, but the culture of where and how to do it is very important. And when we talk about scaling, we talk about scaling from 10 to 10,000 users. Then I'm pretty sure that in most startups the business model changes over time. Again, the change is good, and if you are able to see it, then you will reach to your innovation. And another thought that has given me a lot of maybe knowledge is that innovation doesn't have to be the product. Innovation can be everywhere. Innovation can be in the way you do things and in business model and in trying out different ways of marketing and so on. So innovation is not only the result of the product, but it is the way you work that is innovation as well. And how to cultivate innovation and creativity in a company. We give ourselves a lot of blockers by being afraid of not getting the perfect outcome. And when we do things playfully and we do things with passion, then we are much more creative and much more innovative than when we try to take things seriously. So one specific thing you can do in your culture is to bring more play into it, because it helps to keep focus. It helps to bring people more to presence and enjoy, relax the brain, be practical. For me, one example is retrospectives. For example, when you have team retrospectives, then if you do them in a playful way, then more people are present and more people are coming up with good ideas and good feedback. So it's definitely working. Again, the action you can take right away. Celebrate your failures because they are part of becoming successful, and build a culture that supports innovation and creativity. About teamwork. Teamwork, if you talk to investors, then they say that from growing teamwork is even more important than the idea. You can have an excellent idea, but if you don't have teamwork working, then you will not get there. If you want to grow from 10 users to 10,000 of users, then you need to build a team that is supporting each other, that is trusting each other, and balancing each other. That doesn't mean that you need all superheroes, but you actually need people who are able to work together well to achieve your goals. As teamwork is one of our values as well, then we have a saying that 2 plus 2 equals 10 if you do teamwork correctly. Because what it stands for is that together you reach more than you could individually summed up. So yes, success is a team sport, and that helps you to get much further. If we talk a bit more detailed about product teams, then we have seen that each team needs a different kind of leading to be present. You need someone in the team to be able to lead the people, someone to lead the tech, and someone to do the product leading. But the mistake I have seen a lot is that you name this person a team lead and you expect them to be all three corners. However, in reality it can be different people, because those people who are passionate about people can do some things, and those who are passionate about technology can do other things. And if the teamwork is present and all those triangle tips are there, then you can build those effective processes. But again, yes, it's a cooperation, and it's not that it has to be done by one person. So another action you can take, build strong teamwork, and definitely trust your team. Now we will get to growth hacking. Growth hacking, I have seen again that many people say that or think that growth hacking is just a fancier word for marketing. Yes, it includes marketing, but actually growth hacking is a process, and it includes development, analytics and marketing, and it's about experimenting, sometimes failing, as we talked before, and then analyzing the results, making the decisions, and experimenting again. So you figure out what you want to experiment with your product, then you develop this experiment, then you run it, and then you analyze the data, make conclusions, and do another round of experimenting. This is quite important part because mostly this decision making and analytics is forgotten afterwards. Maybe it's done much later on a big bunch of things, but you can do it little by little every day. And this is something that is forgotten, but this is something that is really important for you if you want to grow quickly and effectively. So an action you can take is to keep a list of experiments that make you curious, keep it available to everyone in your team, and encourage everyone to add new ideas to there. And afterwards, then it is already easier to prioritize them, to then do them, measure them, and learn from them. So growth hacking. Growth hacking is powerful, it's cost effective, because you know much better what to build, and it is important to do it in different moments of your company's growth. So you start to do it from right away, and you never stop, because you always want to create value, you always want to do something that matters. Growth hacking is not something completely new. It has the agile elements, and it has the lean startup thinking and so on, but it's putting different things together that end up with revenue growth. Important thought about growth hacking is that don't have different departments doing different things. Again, this is something we have seen a lot as well with our customers, that you have the marketing department, you have the sales department, you have the development department, but they are not cooperating close enough. They should be cooperating on very close level, because if the developers actually know what the marketing or sales people need, then they can do exactly that, and they can think along and give their ideas as well. Like for example, if the development team gets a goal that yes, this new feature needs to be ready by that time, but let's say this goal is pretty heavy and it's hard to do with this deadline, then the development team is stressed out, and it's difficult for them, and they don't get it done, and everyone is unhappy. Instead, if the development team knows that the sales people only need this feature for demoing it to a certain, let's say, business, then they know that all they need to do for this deadline is to get those things for this demo ready. And this is much easier to do, and in the end everyone is happy, because their development team can do the right thing, and the salespeople have what they need for their demo. So yes, the different departments think work, and it is still the mainstream in the world today, but it definitely slows down the innovation, and I would encourage you to think whether you want those very strict lines between different departments. So another take action point for you: bring development closer to marketing and sales. and join growth hacking communities to get different ideas, because there are a lot of practices, a lot of places where you can see what others have done, and that's always gives inspiration to you as well. And now I would like to share 3 common mistakes I have seen. First of all, you fall in love with your product because you think that you know exactly what your end users need. Maybe when you are on this 10 user scale and you have personal relationships with all those 10 users, then you actually do know. But if we talk about thousands of users, then you don't know anymore, and you need this feedback. So build up your product so that you get this feedback somehow. The earlier, the better. For example, I will take a very good famous example here, YouTube. YouTube started out as a online video dating product, but they followed how users were acting, and they found out that the users were much more anxious to upload their cat videos instead of videos of themselves. And so they changed their idea, and today they are here with us, very famous, doing very well. So who wouldn't like to build a product like that? But they only got there because they knew how to change it, how to do what actually matters. So have empathy, walk in the shoes of potential users, and change whatever is needed to change. The second mistake, you forget to plan how to measure the result. As I mentioned before, then having the analytics part in the end is important, but if you don't plan ahead, like what are you going to measure, then it's might be difficult later on to measure it because you don't have the data. So plan ahead and know what you want to measure in the end, and then you have it, and then you can do it. And now the final part, which is very important part of growth hacking, is that be aware what is the most important thing for you to measure at this exact moment. What is your Northern Star? The Northern Star in growth hacking is the KPI which you are following this current moment. And it can change over time, but again, there are different phases where you are and different things that can matter. Normal Google Analytics shows that yes, how many visitors maybe look at your landing or download your app, but is that really important for you? Do you want people to sign up? And does even signing up is all you want, or you actually want your users to be active? Or you want your users to refer to other users to invite them there? Or it is even revenue that is important for you at this exact moment. So just make sure that you know what is the most important thing for you at the moment, and then you can take the actions you need. A very simple example, Facebook needs people to spend time there, and then they do everything in the UX to make people spend more and more time there. Airbnb doesn't care at all how much time you spend there, because they only care about you clicking to the booking button. So for them it is completely different thing that matters. And another maybe good idea is if you have long onboarding, then studies have shown that if you have the onboarding progress bar in front of it, then users are more likely to finish the onboarding because they know how far along they are. So anyway, it is important that you know what you want the users to be, you know what you want to achieve, and then you can follow how to grow this exact KPI and this exact metrics. To take it together, the metric that means nothing for one company may be another score growth leveler. And the action you can take is figure out your today is Northern Star and focus on it. That is something very practical every product company should do. But of course, it's also important that you know your product must-have, why it's a must-have, and to whom it's a must-have. You want to understand your users. You want to understand how they feel, how they act. Again, I will bring one example here that we have been working with the parking industry, and let's say you do innovation, you do a very good and automated solution that the users go to a parking lot and they don't have to do anything. Everything is automatic. However, if the user doesn't understand it, then they are actually confused, and it is more fuss to them than it was before. So you did a good thing, but you didn't really understand the way your user thinks and feels, and so this good thing maybe didn't reach to the user. And so the earlier, again, you understand them, the better it is, because nobody wants to build something that nobody wants. And how to measure things? We have tried out a lot of different tools. Here are some of them. I'm not going to get into detail here, but just in a week or so we will publish an article that is comparing all those different tools. So you can follow us in the social media and then you can read more about it. But the most important thing about the analytics tools is that use the one that you actually use, because you can have all the fancy tools you wish, but if you are not learning from there, then they don't make any sense. So now another thing you can take action on, make sure you always know your end users and measure, definitely measure. Now I will introduce the word super agile. This is almost 2 years old word which we started using because we wanted to call our approach something, and we found that it is more than just agile, even though the agile practices are a big part of it. But this also includes a more specific mindset about digital product development. It includes top-notch tech and hacking growth, but also building this innovative environment, having the minimal time to market, and building up the communication so that it would be as direct as possible. We have all the developers speaking directly to the business people. As we mentioned before, that if you understand what the sales needs, then it is much easier for developers to actually get there. We value teamwork and business mindset, and we have come up with a tool, Super Agile Score tool, which every product development team can use. And we will get to this tool later on, but now I will give a word to Mick, who will tell you a bit more about continuous deployment.
Yeah. Hello. So, my name is Mick. I'm from Concise. I'm the CTO of Concise, and I like to code. I like a lot to code, and I used to like to code just for the sake of coding, but now I like to code because I know it actually brings growth into the business, and I like to think about how my code is actually influencing the end users, how it's influencing the business that we're trying to grow. And this plan today is to talk about continuous deployment. It's about how to release really often. So let's say you are starting a business, you are starting some kind of startup, and you don't have any users, you don't have any code yet, and you ask yourself like, how many times do I want to release right now? Does it even matter? And I kind of think that you actually don't have 0 users in any point of time, because you have yourself, you have at least one user, and you probably have some other users as well, and it actually makes sense that you want to show these early users the things that you are developing. And you don't want to hold the code in your computer and keep it just for yourself. You want to show it to the ones who you work together with. So continuous deployment. It's basically a process. It's a release process where you release as often as possible. You don't have any manual testing, you don't have any manual steps. You write the code, and when you're done, it will go to production, hopefully within 5 minutes. And when talking about why we should do it, then I think like Facebook has put it into a perspective really well, that if you don't release really often, then you're missing out on actually learning on your users. Because the more releases you have, the more you will have learned from them. You will see how the users react to each small thing. So if you release like, I don't know, once per month or so, you will only learn like how it affects users, the whole month's full work. But instead it makes sense that you maybe release every day and you see all the small changes, how they affect the end users. And the idea originally came from lean methods that had like not that much to do with software development, but there was a book about the lean startup, and this actually like said that why we need this kind of approach. And it's because we want to keep the feedback loop as small as possible. If you write some code, you want to see what it actually does to the end users. You want to measure, you want to have the analytics, and use like whatever analytic tools that works for you, like I've said. And the same idea has been shown in like different types or in different graphs, and one of them is the things that Iva showed in growth hacking, and I have it from the lean startup, but the idea in the end is the same. You have a loop, and now you want to minimize the time it takes to do the full loop. And let's say we had no users, and now we are to 100 users, and like, does it matter like how often you release? Is there any difference between how often you should release when you have 100 users or no users? Then I think like there is no difference, because the pros that you get are the same in the end. And you want to release, even if you have 100 users, you want to release as often as possible as well. And let's say you have maybe 10,000 users, then it's the same. You don't want to back down, or you don't want to keep the code in your computer and not show it to the end users. You want to do the same things. You want to keep the loop small in whatever stage you are right now. And when like talking about the growth of the company, then let's say you have some kind of product that can be measured in the end users. And let's say like one end user costs or like evaluates your company to $100. It's actually it's not a scientific value, but it's actually kind of average of user evaluations when companies are doing IPO. And it's maybe like interesting to think that if you have 10,000 users, then the company is maybe worth, let's say, 1 million. But it basically means that you don't want to miss out on scaling at the correct time. You don't want to postpone scaling. You want to scale as soon as possible. When you see the users coming in, then you want to be ready to actually scale the company. And one way to think is that, okay, in the beginning, you maybe, well, you're lucky to have a developer, but and then maybe some magic goes on and you have 10,000 users. Maybe you don't, maybe you have, and then you are in a place where you actually need like a different approach. But I think like that is a way how you can grow a company. But I think there is like a better way that let's say you start from nothing and now consider that you will get a good developer. Find like one really good developer who understands, or at least the developer has to like know the basics and has to want to grow the business. And when you have these developers, then you can grow a stack that is manageable to this user. It doesn't have to be a superstar. It just has to be someone who is interested in growing the business. And you will probably have the microservices in some way from the beginning. That maybe they're not super micro, maybe they're like mini services, but it's unlikely that the developer will actually start to grow something big, because by the time you have 10,000 users, the small things that you started will be so big that you might actually miss out at the time when it's the right time to scale the team. And not only like from the technical perspective, but from the team perspective, that you actually need a bigger team by that time. And when you think that about the team, then I think the team should be like a cross-functional team or a full-stack team, which means that the team has to be able to do everything that is needed in order to build the product that you have. And it makes sense that you automate as well. If you have all the processes automated, then you will not have the blockers to grow. And when I talked about keeping the feedback loop as small as possible, then another way to think about it, it's time to market. It's time it's like how quickly you can get the code actually to the end users. And from a developer's perspective, it can be seen from this picture that one way is to build something for a very long time, and then I will write a git commit, git push, and it will go to production at some point in time. But instead, it makes sense to do as small changes as possible. And from the automation perspective, here is a picture of what the good CI pipeline looks like. It is doing some tests, then it's deploying to staging environment, then it's doing some tests in staging as well. And if that is done, then the changes will go to production automatically. And you might be heard of continuous delivery, but I'm not talking about continuous delivery today. I'm talking about continuous deployment. And the difference basically is that with continuous delivery, you're doing the same things, but to get to production, you have to click a button manually. But with continuous deployment, you don't have the manual process. And it actually has many benefits, and not only about the time to market that will be slower, but it's also about the processes that happen when you don't have the manual safeguard. Because it's not actually a safeguard, it's like blocking you from innovating your processes. And let's say you are in the beginning, and like what percentage of code coverage to have? I mean, you probably don't have any code coverage. But when you already have maybe 1,000 users, maybe 10,000 users, then and you already have the product, and then you might be thinking that, okay, because I don't have any tests, can I use continuous deployment? But well, I think you can. I mean, the tests are not needed in order to use continuous deployment. There are more important things. And it's quite important to understand like what the testing pyramid looks like right now. That like writing the unit tests, it's only a small part of the whole quality process that you have to build. For example, if I would start a new startup right now, then I mean I wouldn't put so much time into writing the tests in the beginning, but I will instead focus on building a really good monitoring tools, because when I have the monitoring tools in place, then I can catch the problems really quickly. I will have the analytics in place, so I know what the users are doing, and that actually gives me much more benefits than just having the tests. But as the time goes on, and maybe now I have 1,000 users or 10,000 users, then I will more focus on the like pre-deploy tests as well, because they will give me some regression tests that actually safeguard me from doing mistakes that affect a lot of users. But in the beginning, when I don't have the users, I don't need them that much. And so entry barriers into continuous deployment. Then I think like you need automation, you need to build the CI pipeline that I talked about. And the next one thing is that you need monitoring, you need to catch the problem from production. And it is sometimes needed to have a canary release. For example, when you're developing an app instead of a backend or a frontend that can be released more often. And for example, we have a customer, it's Easy Park, and last year we did 4,500 releases. So it's like, is it like much or not? Then as a comparison, Facebook did 6,500 releases, but they did it in a day when we did 4,500 in a year. So it's actually, it's like beneficial to have a lot of releases, and it doesn't matter like how big you are. You might be like super big, but you will still have the same thing, release as often as possible. And well, one of the reasons why to release often was the feedback loop. You want to keep it as small as possible so you can experiment on the end users as much as possible. But it's also a thing that a Puppet Lab conducted a study a few years ago about how different companies release their software. And well, what they found was that in order to be a high performer, you have to do like 20 times more releases than the low performers. And basically, what's it like the difference between high performer and low performer is that if you're a high performer, you can write the code and it will go to production even 80 times faster. So you don't have the code lying around in staging environment or in some branch that nobody is actually using. And this gives you the benefits of actually be able to come back from failures quicker. So the 6 times faster mean time to recovery means that when you have a problem, then when you release really often and so you keep the releases small, then you're able to find the problem much quicker and you're able to fix it much faster as well. So in the end you will have like less downtime for the end users. And here you have it. It's like then you have 5 times lower failure rate in the end. That is like which means you have a much better quality now. And from our experience, it has been that actually the developers like to release often as well. We have seen that if the developers own the production, then they like it so much more than just having to write the code for a month and then like throw it out and okay, someone else will release it. You don't want that. You want to understand what the code will do. When you write the code, it will go to production. You will see how it reacts on the end users. Do you have some problems or not? Are the users happy and so on? And it's actually a really good feeling. And the Puppet study found the same thing that basically we are experiencing as well. But well, from time to time, we have when we are talking about continuous deployment, then someone is saying, okay, but I'm building a really important thing. For example, I'm building a bank, and can I use continuous deployment when I'm building a bank? Then I actually took this slide from Revolut. That's actually a banking company, and they had this slide that, okay, the speed is actually more important than accuracy. But I think in the end, it's not the way that speed is more important, but like Iva said about building the cups, then it's the same thing. If you're doing the things fast, then you will actually build the processes that will give you the quality in the end as well, and the quality will be better than not releasing that often. And a few tips about how to build this like really fast feedback loop and how to do continuous deployment. It's when you are growing and you have now maybe even 2 teams working on different things, then it's nice to have, for example, feature toggles. And so you get used to having feature toggles. It's like you can turn stuff on and off. So if you click a button, it will go on, and you click another button, it will go off, and it's actually a nice thing to have. And by that you can turn off things that are not working, or you can postpone something. You can do whatever you need to. And another like cool way how you can work with something that maybe cannot be released that often. For example, if you're building a native applications, iOS, Android, then it's more difficult to do so quick releases because you have some processes in the app store that prevent you from releasing more often than once a week, for example. And then it's beneficial to have some kind of canary release. But I think in the beginning, for the backends, maybe for the frontends, it's not that important. But for the apps, it can be. However, of course, you can always use progressive web apps, for example, that allows you to release apps as fast as possible as well. And we are actually using progressive web apps quite a bit. So, in conclusion to the continuous deployment story, basically, the code that you write, try to keep it as small as possible. And when you have something done, just release it. Don't wait a week, just do it right now. And that will have a small feedback loop that is beneficial in order to have actually the innovation. And now back to the super agile wheel that Aiva talked about. Yeah, I can see Aiva is coming back as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now in the end we will go over this wheel really quickly, but just to give you an idea what's behind it is that we do this workshop with teams where they measure each element from 0 to 3. 0 means that this element is really low, and 3 that it's perfect. And nobody has all 3s, but the important part about it is that you discuss how to improve those things. And then the first element here is continuous deployment.
Yeah. I already talked about continuous deployment. So this was basically a long talk about just one element of the super agile wheel. But we have a lot of different elements. I covered a bit, for example, balance testing as well. That was about having some regression tests, some unit tests, but also having testing in production as well, to have some monitoring to actually catch the problems in production. Then we have microservices. It's about scaling the organization. It's about scaling technically as well, but it's also about having a smaller mean time to production, mean time to recovery. So the smaller things you have, the smaller the build time will be. Then we have trunk-based development. It's coding only in master, and that's a way how to do continuous deployment. It's like a prerequisite, but it gets some getting used to it. Then we have full stack teams. It's
Mick already mentioned that full stack teams are really needed because then you have all the knowledge in the team, and the teams are much more effective, and they can do everything that is needed for this product to be done. But at the same time, it's also important to keep the teamwork there on a high level, very good level, that nobody has the knowledge alone, and the knowledge is shared inside the team.
Yeah, and then doing the infra work, doing the backend work, front-end work, app work, the team should be able to do everything, and the marketing work as well. So you want to have everything in a team and not have the teams layered.
Yeah, also this infra work that the developers are doing the production things themselves.
Yeah.
Yep. Automation.
Yeah, for example, about the building the pipelines, that you don't have any manual testing, and that you have implemented the CI pipeline that is actually fully automated, that you don't have to deploy anything manually, that is automated. It's one way how to explain how you can even automate the processes and not only the things, all the other things basically.
Yeah. Recently we were asked the automation, could we have a checklist what can be automated, but the meaning here is more that you have the mindset that you see that if you have to do manually something repeatedly, then maybe it makes sense to automate it, and it can be anywhere. It can be functionality that the customer service has to do by hand, or it can be maybe doing automation with your calendars or whatever else, so it can be everywhere.
Yeah. Then we have autonomy, which means the team should be able to do to decide what they will do and decide how they will do it. They want to be in control basically.
Yes. And then we have the switch priority. As I started this talk, was that the world is changing a lot, and if you want to grow, then you have to use the opportunities that you get, and that quite often means that you change the direction, and the development teams should be able to come quickly with those changes without too much stress, so that of course all this process of continuous deployment and so on is supporting it, because you don't have big chunks left in between, but yes, it's a mindset also that we use the business opportunities and then we change if needed.
Yeah.
And MVP thinking. MVP is a minimal viable product. We have mentioned lean startup several times here today, so this is a big subject there as well, but also if you remember the picture where Mick was showing the big chunks and the small chunks, then the small chunks means that you do minimal things you can at once, because then you start to get the feedback much better, which is all part of growth hacking and everything we have talked about here today.
Yeah, and then ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like when I'm writing code to the customer, then I'm not thinking about, it's some products that the customer has. Instead, I think about the products as they are my own. I mean, in the end, I care about the end users. I care how my code affects the end users. And it's like quite powerful feeling that the developers have when they have the ownership about the end users, at least.
Mm-hmm. And short communication flow. Communication is something crucial again in this product development, that the developers would understand exactly what is needed, why it's needed, and as I mentioned in the beginning, then we always have developers speaking directly to business people, because then you get the information directly from where it is best known, and we don't have project managers or system analysts in between. Of course there are different roles, but they are not in between, but they are supporting the team, so there is no telephone playing or forwarding people in between. And yeah, business growth, this is what growth hacking part was all about, that how to build up your processes and how to build up development team mindset, so that business would be present all the time, that the development team has the goals of the business instead of just having their own goals, technical goals, but they actually have the same goals that the business has, and they always understand the whys, why it's needed, to whom it's needed, what are the end users actually feeling, what do they wish, how it's improving their lives, and so on.
Yeah, when I'm coding, I like to think about like how it actually affects end users, and that is like about having the business mindset, and we like to have the developers who have this mindset, and it's usually when people come to work for us, they might not have it in the beginning, but they will have it quite soon. When the team has this mindset, then all the people inside of that team will have the mindset coming soon as well.
And nobody wants to go back.
Yeah.
Yep. And the last element is celebration, because if everything is so smooth and you do everything little by little, then you don't have those big releases, stressful days where you think about all the systems going down and so on. But you still need celebration. You need to feel that you create value. So we pay attention that celebration is still part of our culture. It's part of Super Agile, and it's part of teamwork to celebrate what you achieve. So yes, in the end, when you have a Super Agile score workshop, then you get the scorecard like this. And as I mentioned, there is no team who has all perfect trees, but hopefully soon we are innovating our team, so that soon maybe we will have. But still we live in real world, and it's okay that we have those challenges, and but it's important that we think about those things, and we think about the activities we can do to change it to the better. So another take action point for you. do Super Agile Score workshops repeatedly with your teams, and then also follow the progress of the actions that you find are needed from there. And now we are ending up today's YouTube Live. Here you can see our services. So we do different things in product development area. We offer teams who do super agile development, but we also do different coaching, different workshops, MVP workshop, team workshops, and super agile workshops, and other things like that. And we do have a special offer today, so that if you have this secret keyword super agile and you write to us, then you will get the free 2-hour super agile or MVP workshop with your team. And this is it. Dream big and start small. This is what we talked about today, and hope you found something useful for yourself from here, and go out and start acting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
There's one question in the chat. About an hour. Social.
Hello. I don't know if you're still listening, but we saw a question in the comments, and the question was about if you have an app, then you might be afraid that users don't like that the changes are so changes come in so often. But what we have seen is that users are actually more likely to like the changes that are small instead of big changes. I mean, the users don't like a big rewrite of the whole UI that you do like a couple of times per year, but they are quite fine when you do like small changes as so often as needed. And I think like all the big players are thinking in the same way. For example, if you're using Slack, then Slack is doing like smaller changes every day. You can see maybe that some buttons are in different color, but the users don't mind. The users are fine. But if you would rewrite the whole UI in a like couple of times per year, then they would be probably mad at you more likely. Yeah. Okay, thank you. If you have any more questions, then you can post in the comments box in the YouTube as well. We will try to answer them in written if we can. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.